Hey Shooby-Doodlers, how are you doing? Well, I thought I would do this little video about, do you need to be an artist to draw? Do you need that kind of artistic temperament? And there is a very simple answer, and that is no, you do not. Drawing is a skill that can be learned by anyone. Look, if you went to school and you learned to write, even if you can't write terribly well, but if you can kind of put together a bit of a letter, write a few words, then you can draw. Writing is a kind of a version of drawing. It's a complicated version of drawing. And I write picture books, and I know that when you're writing a picture book, you're throwing words out because you want the pictures to do the words. Like they say, a picture tells 1,000 words. That's why you might want to draw, is to say those 1,000 words rather than write them. But writing and drawing are the same things, and if you remember, you went to school, you practiced every day, and you learned to write, and you learned to write, and you learned to write. And so it doesn't mean that you are a great novelist, it doesn't mean you're a great poet, but you can string a few words together, you can make those marks on a piece of paper, you can write a letter to your bank manager or whatever. So not everybody aspires to be a novelist, not everybody aspires to be a great poet. Similarly, when it comes to drawing, it's just about making marks on paper. If you put the same amount of time at school into drawing that you were made to do for writing, you would be brilliant at drawing. It doesn't mean that you would be a great artist. It doesn't mean you would be a great designer, but it would mean you would be able to draw something. So if you put the time in, with a little bit of intelligence, a bit of thought, a bit of tuition, then you can teach yourself to draw. You can learn to draw, but it does mean practicing every day. So do you need to be an artist to draw? No, you don't. You just need to practice a skill, and that's all drawing is. Drawing, though, is a kind of an underpinning core skill of art. And art, the capital A, is just a whole other thing. It's a whole other dangerous subject. And I think when I grew up, my mother's a bit dramatic. I hope she's not watching. And she loves a bit of a drama, and she loves the opera. And so she took me to see La Boheme when I was about 11 years old. And it made a big impression on me. I don't know if you know that story. And Mimi dies of consumption, and all these artists are living in a garret in Paris, and they go from poverty, then somebody sells something, so they have a great binge, and they get drunk and have a party. And I grew up, I had the impression that this is kind of what the artist's life was all about. And then you go and watch movies like Van Gogh and things like that, where they're cutting their ears off, and this is a very romantic idea of what an artist is about, and it's a novelist, it's a filmmaker's thing that they are selling to people who are not artists. So people who are not artists want to believe that artists are these people who do all this stuff, and they're mad and bad and dangerous to know, but you don't have to be like that to be an artist. So to be an artist, basically, it's all about ideas, and it's about possession. It's demonic possession. So I've said it before, I think very often ideas, well, I don't, I mean, I've come to really believe this, is that ideas are kind of living energy forms which kind of come along, and they kind of get into your brain, and they rootle around and go, hey, this is someone we can work with. And because of all the things that you've learned, and everybody's lived a different life, they've had different experiences, but this idea comes along, hey, we can work with all this experience. And so you work with this idea to produce something, but it's a kind of demonic thing, and so you do everything you can to get this idea out and onto paper, into sculpture, into design, into whatever it is your thing is. And I know some people just go through life, they never have one idea in their whole life. They don't want ideas. Ideas are dangerous. They really do take over your life. If you can be obsessed with an idea that can destroy your life, and get absolutely nowhere with it and end up feeling a miserable failure. It is a dance with the devil, really. So it can destroy you, it can completely make you, or you can just carry on in the middle. But I have come to realise that you don't have to have these wild excesses of temperament, which is what I certainly had when I was younger, because that's what I was taught. I was taught that's how you are an artist. And so I spent most of my time sort of fighting and growling and cursing and not actually getting on and doing the work. And of course, that's the most important thing. And if you actually sit down and think and use your brain calmly, clearly, then you can work out things, and drawing is the essential skill that will allow you to do that. But what about inspiration, you say? Well, yes, inspiration is where it all starts. That's the moment that idea comes along and gets into your brain, and all those little neurons are firing away, going, yeah, oh yeah, I can help you, and the idea's going, hey, look, this is a great idea, we could do this, we could do that, and there's this fantastic moment of inspiration. And if you've never had that, then I'm sorry, but I have it frequently, and it's a huge hormonal kind of whoosh. You don't need drugs when you're having really good ideas. You don't need to go out and get drunk and things. I think perhaps people sort of take the drugs and drink too much when they're not working out the ideas, and the ideas aren't taking them anywhere. And it's one thing having an idea, but you've got to work with it. And that's where you need to calm down, so you have this fantastic explosion in your brain of idea and revelation and all sorts of things like that. And then you go, okay, now I've got to work it out with a pencil. And that's where some people will say, ta-da, and they'll go down to the pub and get drunk, and the next day it's all gone, and then they'll feel low and miserable, and they wait for the next idea. And this is where the idea of sort of creative block comes in, because basically you don't really want a new idea, you don't want to really do the work, you want to live on this kind of whoosh, and you can't do that all the time. So in the end, you have to sit down with a pencil, and you have to work the whole thing out, and you have to plan and actually do the work and create. And that is the real work of an artist, is just quietly getting on with it without anybody telling you have to do it. There's nobody making you do it, unless you're a commercial artist and you've got deadlines to meet for other people. But if you are a kind of a self-driven, inspired artist, you just have to do it yourself. And maybe no one will ever like it, but you just have to keep quietly explaining and showing and telling people why you're doing it. And eventually people get used to what you're doing, and eventually they get to like it, and eventually they will start supporting you, and eventually they'll think you're a genius. But you have to do the work, and you have to do the work. And at the root of all that is a crayon. No, it's meant to be a pencil. At the root of it all is a pencil. And if you sit there and create, I suppose you can do it on Photoshop with a mouse or something, but this is the ultimate tool. It's a direct connection from those little neurons that are fizzing away in your brain down to your hand. You get the idea from in there, you work it out with this, and all those marks, all those things that you need, that language of drawing, that is a skill that you can learn.